So I know that a lot of people tend to believe that they look at this and they see a beginner strobe instead of saying that that's just another tool in my arsenal. I find that, for me, these might actually, I don't want to say harder, as long as I know what I'm doing. We were talking about this outside that, there's 100 different kinds of hammers and there's 100 different kinds of nails. And you just got to make sure you pick the right hammer for the right nail. As long as you can do that, you can get amazing results, regardless of what kind of light that you try to do. So for about 7 years in a row, when I was working at another company that sold speedlights, it was Nikon, but so you alluded to it. I shot everything on speedlights. And then when I came to Westcott, like one of the great things was that I got access to much bigger strobes, and it didn't make my work better. It made my work different. I was able to move my lights away from my subjects a little bit more. And I started having all this extra power. But here we are, and like this past week, we came out with 2 lights, and conveniently we called them both FJ100, so you guys wouldn't get confused. We just go like, I want an FJ100, and you'll be able to get one or the other. So we came out with the FJ100 strobe, which you're seeing right there, and the FJ100 speed light. They're both 100 watts. They're both gonna give you pretty much the same amount of light, but they're designed for different purposes. I am going to be much more likely, more of the time, probably to use the strobe because it's going to be easier for me to fit in my bag. I can carry 2 or 3 of them in the same space. I'm going to get a lot of power out of a small package. But this one becomes invaluable if I want to put it in the shoe of my camera, right? So that's something that I need to, when people are like, which one should I get? I actually see myself probably going forward when I'm doing events to doing a kit where I do 1 of these and 2 of these. That gives me a lot of flexibility. But if I'm going to use this as a commander, which we call host, then this is the right one. If I'm going to use this on the camera, this is the right one. If I am going to use this with my trigger on my camera and do this, which I do fairly often, then they're both pretty good. This one's a little easier for me to hold if I do it this way. But we also have products like the Pro Grip, which I'll show you guys later, which you can put onto the FJ100, and it makes a really nice package to run around. Let's not talk, I'm going to talk product, but what I want to talk to you guys is about the art of getting better images out of these small lights. So has anybody seen From Fear to Flash at some point? Nobody has ever seen me talk before. This is a good group, or 2 people, good. What's cool, what you need to remember is that no matter which strobe we use, whether it's 100 or it's an 800, process is not going to change. We're just going to have to make some decisions and be a little bit more intentional with what we do in order to make these lights give us the results that we want. You're not going to be able to throw a 7-foot umbrella through a 100-watt strobe. So if you're trying for super soft light, this might not be your tool. Now, does anybody know how do we determine softness of light? Anybody?
Closer to the subject.
Go ahead, say it. The size of the light source versus the size of the subject. So I can get super soft light out of this with a small modifier if I take it and put it right next to my subject. And these are the things that I have to keep in mind all the time. If I'm going to ask this, I know that when I run out and I try to do some kind of serious lighting and I'm using a speed light or I'm using a 100, if I get frustrated, it usually has nothing to do with this. It has to do with me having said, I'm going to pick a time of the day that wasn't the right time to do this. I was going to pick a location that didn't make sense. I'm going to pick a modifier that didn't make sense. For me, it's always going to come down to ISO first. Now, ISO, more than when I'm using my 400 or my 800, now is an important part of my process. I might have to turn it up to get more power out of this light. The challenge with raising your ISO is that raising your ISO is a universal change. So if you tell yourself, oh, I can just get more power out of that 100 if I raise it 1 stop up, that's true. But then you might find yourself having to raise your shutter speed or your aperture at the same time and losing that light back. So ISO is still going to be a thing that for me is not a big part of my thought. I am going to think about it. When I do this, where I show the keynote, you'll see that I do this for concerts. In concerts where I have a dark situation, I'm going to raise my ISO so I can turn down the flash and I get more recycle time. My batteries last forever. But I'm not doing it for more power out of my flash necessarily. I'm doing it so I can get the recycle time and all that. The second thing that I'm going to think about and where it really starts to become important to me is how much of the picture is going to be in focus. The only things that we have to make sure that people understand what's important to us in a photo are what's in focus and what's lit. So I'm going to handle what's lit in a second. But if I'm going to go out and I know that what I want to do today is sunbursts, well, this isn't the right light for me because I'm going to get a sunburst at f14 or f16. I'm already giving up a ton of power. I'm going to go to my 800 or my 400 and move it close. But if what I'm trying to do is go outside and shoot 2.8, 4, 5, 6, normal sync, pick the right time of the day. There's a, in the long form of this, I'm going to paraphrase it, but there's a Sun Tzu quote where he's like, pick the time of day that you're going to fight and you'll be better. So if I'm going to go out and I'm going to use this, I'm not going to do that at noon. I'm not going to say, let me beat all that sun. So, okay, I get out. I pick an aperture now. So I'm shooting the Shellman. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Okay. If he's important to me and you guys are not important to me, what aperture am I going to pick? Sure. On this lens, 2.8. If I had a 1.4, whatever. So that's my first step. I'm always going to start with that step because that's going to influence the next step, which is going to be shutter speed. Just going to give you that up. So
You suck at secrets.
that's it. Secrets aren't good for me. So if I decide on 2.8 for him, and now I decide that not only are you guys not important enough to be in focus, but I don't want any light on you guys. I'm going to raise a shutter speed that's going to reduce that amount of light. So let's try that real quick. All right, so Chris is going to, you know what? George, come on over. Chris, you're not the star anymore. Sorry.
Hey, George.
So everybody, this is George. He's going to be our model. George, you're going to stay right there. You're going to stay right there, George. Yep. Right there. That spot. All right, so George is obviously a professional model, and you guys are not. So we're going to make sure that this picture becomes more about George. So I'm going to turn off my flashes. Now-
Gary Hughes says hi.
What's that?
Gary Hughes says hi.
Hi, Gary Hughes. How is everything?
Gary Orlando.
There's a talented guy. So as time's passed, these steps I don't do as much consciously because I failed forward so many times. But at the beginning, I would always do this. I'm going to turn off my lights, start there, and make some decisions. So I've decided on 2.8. I'm going to go. I'm going to look at George. I'm going to take a picture. Okay. All right, so that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm blessed in this set that our boy over here has picked out a bunch of great lights and made it really easy. I'm saying, that wasn't a rip on you. I'm saying that he's lit by that.
Standing.
Well, you looked up like you thought I was challenging you.
They're here to learn.
Okay. Okay. So now I've decided you guys are less important. So 2.8 at 400. Okay. All right. You guys are no longer really part of the picture. I've eliminated you guys. I've eliminated you with depth of field. I've eliminated you with shutter speed. That brings us to add the light. So this is where the art comes. All the rest of that is what you guys do every time that you take a picture. If you're a landscape shooter, you're a wildlife shooter, whatever you are, it's always the same process. What ISO do I want? What aperture do I want to control my depth of field? What shutter speed do I need so that I can control all of my ambient light? So in this case, I've decided that that's less important. He's only the thing that's important. So let's add some light. Now, for this, I'm going to let's start with something as simple and small as possible. Where did I put it?
Did you say what camera and lens?
What?
Did you say what camera and lens you're using?
I am using an A1 II with a 24-70 GM2. They come from Sony. What did I?
That light?
No, the other one. There was one more.
Gave you a pen for it too, and you still use the arm?
I'm losing my mind. All right, so there we go. All right, so I got multiple lights going on in the room. This is going to be an FJ100 strobe with the Octa 15. Now this is a small light source. So if I want this light to be soft, I need to put it as close to him as I can. Softness is dictated by the size of the light source in relation to the size of the subject. So by putting it pretty close, I will get soft-ish light. If I wanted the picture to become really soft, I could either go a little bit bigger to the Octa S, or I could throw the umbrella on, and we'll show that in a second. I'm going to turn on B. Now, people are always like, all right, so you told me now add the light. Now, how should I determine how much power to put onto him? And if Westcott sold light meters, I'd tell you to use a light meter. But Westcott doesn't sell light meters. And I've spent a lot of time guessing, and I'm fairly okay at it. But I'll take the first picture all the way up. I'll go to top power. Not because it's right, it's going to be wrong. But so you guys can see process. Okay. All right. As expected, too much power. Now, when people say, how do you get it? Because like my big party trick is I can just pretty much guess it. It's who's seen the Terminator at some point in their life. He's taking all the information and he's spitting out an answer on what he needs to do. So I'm going, what ISO was I at? What aperture did I decide to choose? Which light am I carrying? And I'm doing from a lifetime of experience going, this is what I think I need for that. So if I was guessing, I would have come out here at like 5 power on this, which is not half. 5 is 4 stops down. Boom. That's a lot better. That was my first guess before I turned it up so we could look so foolish together. I think he's probably still a little tiny bit overexposed, but it was a much closer guess. So now I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say, is it too bright or is it too dark? I've added the light. I'll go another half stop. Come on, George, give me some blue light now. There you go. That's much better. Zoom into that. I am not sharp, am I? Or am I? Oh, sharp there. Okay. All right, so that looks good. Now, when we talk about softness, we're talking about the transition from what's lit to what's not lit. A lot of people mistake bright light or dark light for soft. It's how fast that transition happens. So right now, because this is a pretty small softbox, going from the part of George's face that's lit to the part of his face that's unlit is happening pretty fast. But the other challenge that I have in this picture is that Chris is trying to get involved. He's like, let me be part of this picture. So I don't want that necessarily. So one of the other things that I'm saying when I'm using it, if I'm going to use small lights, my big lights are much more forgiving. I'm using bigger modifiers. I have more space to work. If I decide to take out the small lights, I have to be really intentional with all of my decisions. So I'm going to say like this. I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to feather it. So I'm not going to have it go out that way. I'm going to go here because as long as he can see the light can see him. I don't care about the light going back there because we've already determined that you guys are less important than George. You're very important. Okay. So now Chris is gone, even though he was in the last picture. Let me go back one. This is, no, there's no way to do that, I guess not.
You're trying to go backwards?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. All right, so it's great. All right. So I feel good about this exposure, but what I'm going to run into on top of that with the really small modifier is that there's going to be a lot of fall off. So we're already seeing that down by the shirt, the bottom of the shirt is a lot less exposed than it was. So let's think. My first instinct, and maybe one of your first instincts would be to aim the light down a little bit. Okay, that makes sense. But then we're going to end up with a trade-off there. This is not tall enough, is it?
Pick the shortest I got.
I wanted one to match me. It's okay. No, I'm going to, yeah, I'll do that. No, because I want it tilted.
Want to grab one of those 7 other C
Nope,
that are taller?
nope. George, sit. There, my life is easier already. So if I decide that I'm going to tilt it down in order to get more light on him, as though I was shooting a full body shot, the challenge is this is going to be the catch light. I don't like giving up the catch lights. Anybody want to tell me the catch light's that light that's in their eyes that makes them look alive? It's going to be the thing that if you decide that you want to really be about light, you're going to look in, you're going to say, hey, does this look, how did they light this? Okay. All right, so I moved the light closer to him. What happened? He got brighter, right? Because I moved the light closer. I also, though, was able to get more light on his hands than in the last picture, so that was good. And George did me a favor, and he tilted his head up a little bit. George, look straight. There you go. Because he's a professional. He did the right thing. There. So I did just barely get a catch light. I'd actually be okay with that. But it's not exactly the shot that I wanted. Like, I was like, all right, I've lost a little something. What can I do? Well, I can go to a bigger modifier. I can go to a bigger modifier. It's going to let the light spread out a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit softer. I'm not going to have to worry about those shadows transitioning very fast. I can put the light back down. I'm going to do that. So what's the easiest way for me to do that? In the Westcott lineup, if I'm going to go from, this is a modifier, this is the Octa 15. It's made for the 100s. It clicks in, it's the twist mount. It's going to go on the FJ200. It's going to go on the L60B constant light that we make. It's going to go on the both of the 100s, all the versions. That's great. If I decide that I want something bigger, what I'm going to go is to this, which is a modifier to put me into a full-size Bowens. So this is the quick mount bracket 2. It's going to let me put any of our full-size Bowens. It also has cold shoes up here. So that if I was using speedlights and I wanted to use a bigger umbrella, so let's say you've got 3 speedlights because you ran out, but you wanted them to all be one big light source, I'd be able to go 1, 2, 3, and then run the umbrella through here to get much softer light that way. But let's start with this. Okay. All right, so this is
For those of you online, the links to all this stuff is in the description, and there should be a thing that you can scroll through on the bottom of the video.
all right. I'm going to turn off Group B. I'm going to turn on Group A because this is my Group A light. This is my Group B light. Just so you guys can see clearly the difference between those two things. I'm going to try to make it as fair as we can make it. So I want you guys to see the difference as much as possible. Eli says hi. Eli's the best. All right, here we go. Okay. All right. So same exact shot pretty much now. Group A is going to be, I'm going to turn it down so that it's the same amount of power that we had on Group B, just to try to make them as even as possible. So I'm down to 4.5. Test. Okay, there we go. Here we go, guys. And now the transition is happening a little bit faster, a little bit slower. So even though this light is farther away, I still was able to get a little bit of a softer quality of light. If you look at his cheek, if you look at this one versus, yeah, it doesn't do it. Let's see. Does that help? Nope. You can only see what's on there. All right. Between the two shots, you're going to have to trust me for a second. I'm going to take this. I'm going to move it even a little closer. I'm going to tilt it down a little bit. This is going to give me softer light. Sorry. Now it's just out of the frame. There we go. So it got brighter, but it got softer. Why did it get brighter? Because I moved it closer, right? It makes sense to everybody. Now, inverse square law says that every time I double the distance, I lose 2 stops. By moving it closer, even though we didn't half it, I did pick up a good amount of light. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to turn it down to 3.8. Go like that. Boom. Oh, that's much nicer. That looks good. I wish that you guys could see that zoom. All right. So over there on the cheek, camera left, what you're seeing is that we've got shadows because we went so directional, but they're soft. You know, they're happening very gradually, and that's a nice soft light. Now, in this situation where George is good looking on both sides, we're going to give ourselves a hair light now because we don't want him to get lost. George, scoop forward. Keep coming forward, forward. Stop. Okay. I'm going to introduce my second light. I'm going to aim that as. All right. Now, I liked all those pictures that I just did with one light. And I think you can get great results with one light, especially if you're intentional. Pick your spots. Pick how much, depth of field is going to be a big deal. If I decide that what's important to me in these pictures is f8 or f11, I'm going to my 250, going to my 400. I'm not going to use these tools. But in these types of shots where I'm doing headshots, I'm doing things like that where depth of field is not such a big deal, then these become really great options for me. Now, when I do add a second light, what I will always do is start from the back and work my way to the front so I have a better idea of what those lights are actually going to do individually. So I'm turning off I turned off A. I'm going to turn back on B. And I'm going to see what my hair light looks like there. All right, so it is too bright, and it's, in my opinion, wrapping around too much to the front of his face. Okay. So, moved it back a little bit. Now I'm going to turn it down a little bit, because I don't want this light to dominate the scene. This light's just going to be there to give a little bit of separation so that George doesn't get lost into the background. That looks better. I zoom in. Whenever I'm doing this, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to make sure I have skin detail. So when I look into there, I'm able to see detail on the side of that. If I lose that, or if the subject's blonde, let's say, if I try to light that and I get home and I'm like, oh, it looks good on the back of the screen, especially if I have both lights on, when I get home, there is no detail there. I can't get it back. I can't get back blowouts. I can get back underexposed a little bit, but I can't get back the blowout. So I'm going to turn this one back on. We're going to combine those two together. There we go. It's just so you guys can see the two of those side by side real quick. We'll do that. So no backlight. Do the exact same pose, George. Don't change poses for me real quick. And now with it. There. Does anybody have a preference between those two? That's really, yeah, it's really, all right. We've learned a lesson today. I have learned a lesson today.
Unavailable.
Oh, there, and then if I, nope, it won't let me.
Did you shut your camera?
No,
How's that? Does that work for you?
that was excellent.
You sure?
Yeah, it's a good thing that you were here. Oh, whew. Decided I'd entertain everybody at home. All right, so with the rim light, without the rim light. With the rim light, without the rim light. I think the rim light one's better. Like, you know, he's definitely more carved out of the background. We know what we're trying to look at. The first shot's fine. And what ends up happening a lot with me, there's a, so making fun of the beep.
Gary Hughes is saying he was skeptical, but this is shaping up to be a good shot.
So what I really enjoy, yes, what I enjoy about being able to do that is what I do is when I finish a shot, I like to red team myself, which is look at it and go, what if I just did everything different? Whether that's changing the aperture, whether it's changing where the light source was, whether it's adding a second light where I didn't think I needed it, just to go, And sometimes I do it and I go, yeah, you overthought that. You know, you were happy, you were good the way you were. But sometimes I do it and I go, this looks a lot better now that I've just added a little bit of light. Now let's say we want to get real soft. All right. Let's go to the umbrella. So this is probably my favorite umbrella. I like my 7-footer, don't get me wrong, but this is a lot easier for me to move around. I have a little bit more control with this. This is one of the downsides with umbrellas. I can't grid them. I don't have this little bit of space at the front to let me feather it a little better. I can feather an umbrella, but it won't be as effective. So this one to me is like the best blend of size versus, you know, softness. This is a 43-inch deep umbrella. It is the silver interior. I like the silver interior, especially with the small lights, because I'm giving up less light. And also, I know that for 85, 90% of my portraits, I'm going to touch them later. I'm not going to do a ton of post. I'm not a big post guy, but I am going to go in and soften some skin. I would rather soften skin a little bit and have that silver give me more specular crunch in the details of the picture, so I'm not worrying about trying to get that back at the same time. Not that white's bad, I just tend to prefer this. So now we're up to a really big light source. I'm going to turn off B. We're just going to use A. Now, the light is no longer coming directly at him. So this is another thing that I got to think when I'm going, how much power am I going to turn on? I've decided now that when the light was here coming out of the softbox, it was this far away from him. So that was one sort of power. Now I'm going to throw the light this way and then have it come back. I haven't quite doubled it, but I've definitely lost some power. Now, if I'm on set and I'm making these kind of decisions and I don't want to look foolish in front of everybody as much as I look foolish when I got Seth booping me on the nose, then I look foolish. But one of the key things is just to think these things through. Because if I decide not to and I just go, there's only so many times where I can look down at my camera and change things. So knowing these rules, knowing how the light's going to act, lets me get it at least close on that one shot so there's less going forward. The best thing that you can do to make somebody comfortable in front of your camera is be able to, at the very least, look competent, even if you can't be. So, that's a key. Now, you'll notice I got the light so much farther over to the side now. In fact, we're going to, in the sake of showing how much of a bigger, softer light source this is, I'm going to turn it almost all the way sideways, just so that we see how much that light gets around to his face.
So they're asking, is that an S bracket?
That is a quick mount S bracket. S is a term that other companies use, but it is a S bracket for us as well because that's Bowen's. I think that ours uses a kind of a snowboard boot kind of ratcheting thing so that you're not worried about screwing down onto everything. I really like the design. All right, so I guessed pretty good on the exposure, even though that light is 90 degrees to the side. Yes, sir. Oh, really? All right, let's find out. Oh, all right.
Which was the last one?
That's okay.
Am I going the wrong way?
No. Done. Okay, there we go.
Is that the shot?
I don't know.
Just cropping that thing.
No, it's not doing it. Thank you, sir. That's just done, I think, right? We got to come out of it and be back in this one. And if we're back in this one. Yeah. So even though that light is 90 degrees to the side of him, I'm getting almost as much coverage as I got when I had the smaller box up here. So if I take that now and I go, let's work it the way it should be worked. Now, a lot of people are going to go look at this and they're going to automatically try to aim this at their subject, but that's a lot of light thrown behind for no reason. So let's take it and feather it out in front of them a little bit.
He was the cowboy at the camera show, guys. Yep, that was him.
It is the cowboy. Does everybody see the difference in how much light's on his face between the small boxes and this box? That light is so much softer. Now, if I take it, I could almost back at me, essentially, and still get a decent amount of light on his face, even though it's aimed at me. Those big modifiers are going to give you a lot of flexibility. So if we're shooting something where I want you guys out of the shot, this was going to put a lot of light on you guys. This is going to take a lot of light off you guys. Imagine you guys are the wall in the studio. Let's do that over here real quick. George, come on over here.
Sit.
Yeah, sit. It's fine. Yes, sir.
Someone in the chat's asking, does the shape of the modifier, rectangular versus circular, change the spread of the light?
It's going to change the catch light and it's going to change how the fall off happens. Since I shoot outside so much, since I shoot outside so much,
I know the answer.
I have always been prone to go to round modifiers because there's a lot of days where I tend to lean into dramatic. That's definitely my style. But there's days where if I'm at a wedding or I'm shooting a portrait that's dramatic doesn't work, then having a round modifier and somebody zooms in later and they look at it and the catch light's are round, they go, he just found really nice light. Like I'm not looking to be flashy in that instance. Square modifiers are great and you're getting a ton of size, which is going to give you softer light. I personally don't prefer the catch lights. And that's why I tend to go with the beauty dishes, the umbrellas, the soft boxes. The Manny Ortiz and the Joel Grimes soft boxes are my favorite because they have 16 rods and they're rounder. So when I look at a catch light, it could be the sun. That's just where I go with that. Now, if I take this picture, let's go this way. So I've decided to shoot on a black background. I'm looking for a little bit of drama, obviously, when I do that. I'm going to separate. George's got that nice white shirt. All right. So At that point, we're seeing that there's a little bit of gray in the background because a little bit of this light is getting to that background. But if I do this, I'm going to get significantly less. I don't know if it's able to tell on there, but you can see it on here. So if you see, it's totally black in the background now, but there's still plenty of light on the other side of George's face. But let's add a second light, because a second light in this case, I think, is going to make this picture a lot better. And what I love about this is that for these two lights, you know, I'm around $500 and I've got a studio with me. Is it going to be the same as if I go out and I want to shoot middle of the day outside? No. But I'm not asking it to be. I'm saying, what can this do for me right today? We just shot a bunch of really, let's see, can I do that? If I go to the pictures that I just shot outside, am I able to show them on here? That doesn't matter. If it will beat, we can beat the sun. We just have to be careful about our distance. We have to, you know, we're going to move the light closer. Make sure that I put myself in a situation where I'm not asking the light to do more than it can. So when we're outside, you know, I've got somebody with me or I have a light stand with me and I want to shoot him outside and I decide I want to go to high-speed sync. I know I'm going to lose power. All right, I've automatically turned up my power. I know that I'm going to use a modifier that's a little bit bigger. I know I got to move it closer again because I'm losing power. So when I'm outside, I'm thinking about this stuff all the time. If I'm in a situation where I'm really challenged, I don't want to give up a ton of power, I need to make decisions that make that work. So I'm back to that same process that we talked about before. The key here, guys, for me, for anybody who's just getting into lighting or just is uncomfortable lighting, is that I always find myself back to the same process over and over and over until it becomes second nature. What aperture am I going to pick? What shutter speed am I going to pick to get myself my ambient light the way that I want? In this case, where I'm shooting a black background, what I'd like is a picture that looks like this. You know, even with all the lights that are in here, all right, that's not as dark as I would like. So I'm going to go, all right, to there. Is that the new picture or is this, it is? I'm pretty black, even though he's got a white shirt and even though we've got all these lights on here. So I'm black. That means that all of the pictures that are all the light that goes into this scene now is going to come from me. So I've made all these decisions. I was shooting 2.8 with you guys. Why? What was not important to me in the picture? Background. You guys are important. Background wasn't important. In this case, 2.8's not really serving a purpose for me. There's no detail in the background. And all I'm doing is theoretically giving up detail in George. If I've got a model that has lots of good detail, then I don't necessarily want to do that. I want to make sure that from his nose to his hair is all in focus. So I'm going to stop down. I'm going to go 5.6, let's say. I'll go to 250th of a second. My camera syncs at 400th, so I have a little bit more flexibility. But, you know, just to make it so that it makes sense for everybody. Most cameras are at 200th, 250th. All right, so let's go 7.1. Let's just do that. Because I know that I've made it sound a little bit like I got to pick faster apertures. All right. Black frame. I am now at 7.1 at 250th. I know George at this distance with this lens is going to be totally in focus. I don't have to worry about getting home and going, I caught an eyelash instead of catching something else. From the time where I was shooting all speed lights, when I go back and I look at that work now, the number one thing that I find myself going is that I was shooting at 1.4, at f2, at close distances, and I look back and I'm like, the eye is out. Or I got the eye, the eyelashes are out. Or I got that and the person had great hair and their hair's out of focus. And I'm like, what was the point of this shot? At the time, it was just to get the shot. But now I'm looking at it a little bit more critical with a lot of failure behind me, saying, how can I make this better? So let's start with the one light, and then we'll add the second one. So because I went all the way down to 7.1, I know that my power from earlier is not the right amount of power anymore. Remember, I'm going like, this is always running through my head. So that when he's with me as a client, I don't look foolish. I want that first shot to be close, at the very least. So I'm going to turn it up. Let's see where we're at and hope that I guessed relatively right. That wasn't too bad. All right. So I think how do we feel about the exposure as a group? I mean, the white background on the black is not the easiest, but it was a good guess. And that was just the math in my head. I was at 2.8 before at 4 power. I went 2.8 to 4 is 1 stop, to 5.6 is 2 stops. I didn't go all the way to f8. I went just short of that, so I didn't need 3 stops. So originally I had 4 power. I went 5, 6, 7, and a little bit more. And I was at least ballpark close, which is always a fun thing to be. So now let's turn off this one. Let's turn on the backlight. Same process with the backlight. And in fact, probably a little bit more of that process, because I put it farther away than we had it over here. So let me get it up to 7. Let's go here. Boom. All right, that feels good. That feels good. We got some detail in the hair. We got some detail in the skin, the shoulders in there. Now let's add both lights. That feels good. George looks straight at me. Now, I still think that we want more light on his face, because right now, like, I know George. George is a nice guy. In this picture, he looks like he could be an arms dealer. Like, it's not really the look that we're going for with him. So what's up?
You mean the Miami drug dealer all white thing doesn't?
The tan, the whole thing, the whole thing. I think there's a Testarossa outside. So
Vice City George.
Let's take the light and feather it a little more towards him and bring it out a little bit. So I still don't want that light spilling on the background. I want that nice black back there. It's an easy thing to fix in post. I don't love doing post. I'm not good at it. Like if what you like doing is post, then feel free to overexpose your background a little bit and make it darker in post, because it'll be fine. But to me, let's try that. There's a little bit more on his face now. George, bring your head this way a little bit. That feels good. Now, can you guys, I don't know if, between the iPad and all this, but yeah, we lose a lot of the sharpness right away because it's only sending across a 2 megapixel file. It's significantly sharper than when we were doing 2.8. And it's not that the 2.8 was bad, and it's not sharper. It's more of the picture is sharper. More of the picture is acceptably sharp. Yeah. Oh, that's your look, George. I love it. All right. There, that feels good. Good catch lights, a lot of detail. I know he's in focus. The background looks black the way I wanted it to. And that's all because I kept that process. How much of this do I want in focus? How much do I want the background to show up in my picture? In this case, none. And then add the light. Once I add the light, I got to start making all those other creative decisions, because that's where I know that sometimes when you're listening to somebody who's highly technical, it can seem like all of this is just math. And there's math. And then math will make your life easier for sure. But this is the part where it's art. How do I want the person to look? Where am I putting the light coming from? Because now, as long as I make the same distance, my exposure will stay the same. So if what I'll do is I'll imagine that there's a string going from his head to the light. If I decide that I want more light in front of him so that he looks a little bit even more approachable and has less shadows, I'll just take the light, move it more in front of me. And I'm making a creative decision with a different modifier now, with the same modifier, but I'm changing the whole look. There's more light in front of him now. Now he's a little more approachable. Now he might be friendly granddad. Before he was, neighborhood drug dealer. We've agreed on that. No? You're not happy with friendly granddad? Sorry, brother. All right, so this umbrella to me is something I can carry. I can get giant amounts of light. I can run it with or without the diffusion. It's really simple to pull the diffusion off and still have the bounce come out of that. But it's not always going to be right. And unfortunately, it's like chips. There's never going to be just one modifier that's going to make you happy. It's always going to be keep going back to it and find the ones. How many of you only own one lens? None of you. One lens. You only own one? Oh, okay. Right, okay. It's going to be the same with modifiers. I run into people all the time. They're like, what's your favorite modifier? And I'll tell them what my favorite is, but I would never leave the house with just the one because I don't know exactly what I'm going to try to accomplish. If it had turned out George's daughter is also a great model. If she was here, I'm going to change what I'm going to do here because I need more coverage. I need less coverage. I want to make sure they're both soft. So having just one modifier isn't going to be the answer that I need it to be. There's never going to come a situation where I'm like, yep, that was it, and I'm good now. And I think that it might even be a little bit more important when I've decided to go to smaller lights. Now, I keep talking about the strobe, and I love it, but there's also a 100 speed light. Now, there's also still the FJ82. It's still in the lineup, just for the record. But the FJ100 is smaller, more powerful, gets more battery life. And, just for the record, these are getting 700 full power flashes out of them, which is ridiculous, the strobes. These are getting me about 575. If I end up having to put this light in a situation where I am overlit a lot, but I have one of these also, what I'll do is I'll put this onto my camera. I'll turn this into what we call host, but commander mode for everybody else in the world. Host, where it's going to talk to my other strobes. I'll turn down the power a lot, so it's not really overexposing his face, but it's still going to give me a catch light. So that, because you're going to run into situations sometimes where this was in the shot, right? But I still wanted it. I moved it up to have more light down on him. I don't want to give up that catch light.
Someone in the chat's asking, the FJ100 speedlight, is it physically the same size as the 82?
No, it is smaller. Let's show it. I'm going to it. You got me. You've directed well. That's the FJ80. That's the FJ100. Am I even? Yeah. So it's a pretty significant difference. And where that comes into play isn't so much in anything other, because the power difference is not a substantial enough difference for me to say I'm upgrading. But this is smaller. It does have a battery that's going to last longer. And the other cool thing that I didn't talk about was that this and the FJ100 strobe use the same battery. So if you're rolling out, a USB-C will charge them. I can plug it in and charge it while it's out. So if I decide to mount this somewhere, if anybody looks at my work, you'll see a lot of concert stuff where I'm putting the lights mounted up somewhere. Knowing that I can just plug that in USB-C to a dongle or to something else and keep it running all day is nice. Now, sometimes hard light is the answer. Now, I'm out of a modifier. I don't have any modifier on. I'm just going to go straight at George. I'm going to say, what can I do to make this picture more interesting or less interesting sometimes? But I want it to be more interesting. I've decided that George is a bad man. George, you're the bad man now. Yeah, I know. Stay low to the bad guy. We're doing Scarface references, apparently. All good? Thanks. All right, I'm turning off the main light, the backlight. I've just got this one running. Okay. Now, what do you guys think? So I moved the light closer to him. I took off the modifier. What am I going to do with the power on that strobe? I'm going to turn it down. It's at 8.1 right now. I'm going to say 2.5 stops. I'm going to go down to 5.5. It's a guess, but I feel good about it. That wasn't too bad. Now, do we see how fast the fall off is now? I know that sometimes I do these classes and I ask people to tell me about hard and soft, and then everybody goes, But now we see it, right? Like, it's not that there is a shadow. We had shadows in the other pictures. It's how gradual that shadow happens. Now, one of my best pictures that I've ever taken, and it's on the keynote, is at Great Wall of China. I show up there, I see this guy. He looks like he was there to build it. So I don't want to take the wrinkles out of his face. If I put soft light on him, I'm going to fill in all those shadows, which is what the wrinkles are. It's the same when we're doing athletes. If I've got an athlete with a great abs, they've got a great six-pack, and I decide to take a light and put it straight in front of them or put a big modifier right in front of them, what I'm doing is filling in all the shadows. Filling in those shadows, I don't want the guy with the great six-pack to look like me. It's like not the right move to do for him. So making those lights go to the sides, going to give them a little bit more definition. If anybody that I shoot that is working out or doing that, I'm always going to side light them. I'm always going to put a lot more light to the sides. So I'm going to introduce cuts into their body and more shadows. It also, like, a lot of times makes things a little bit more interesting without having to work too hard. George, look right here. It's not that we don't get, I could get both eyes. I can get both of that look, but it's not as pleasing to me as it was to me 10 years ago. And that's because my feelings have evolved. Some of you are going to go out and you're going to go, hey, I love hard light. Hard light's the way to go. So lean into it. Define your style. Find that style. You don't have to carry a whole bunch of other stuff and make great pictures. But knowing how to make each one of them is going to make you a better photographer. You know, there's yesterday was the 10-year anniversary of me going to Rio to shoot. I was there for the Olympics. I was there with Nikon, but I got to shoot Simone Biles. It was awesome. Checklist. But one day off that we get to go up to Christ the Redeemer to be tourists, we get there, and from me to Rob, I can't see it. It's in, it's out. Anybody who's seen For Fear Flash has seen this picture. But what I did have was a speed light. So I set the speed light up on my tripod, and it's hard light, and I know that. But because I have it, I end up looking up. I see a person. It's not in there. I go grab her, please. Somebody brings this woman over. I put her in front of the Christ the Redeemer. She's got an American flag. She's attractive. We take this picture. It is not a glamour. It's not a great shot. It's on my Instagram if anybody wants to go look at it. It's on my Instagram, like second or third post today, because it was 10 years yesterday. But the next morning, she goes, hey, I've got some stuff that I need to shoot while I'm here. I'm like, oh, because the rest of that conversation was, hey, what's your name? She tells me. Where are you from? New York. Oh, I'm from New York. What do you do? I'm a model. Oh, anything I would have seen? Yeah, I'm on America's Next Top Model right now. You know, and that led to me going out and shooting a bunch of stuff with her the next day, coming back here. I ended up shooting her wedding. I ended up shooting other stuff for her. And it's all because I had the flash. It's the same, like, for how many of you guys are here today that think you're photographers? You all think you're photographers, right? Come on, raise your hand. Am I a photographer or not? How many of you have your cameras, and how many don't have your cameras? All right. If you don't have your camera, you're just another person standing around staring at stuff. So it's the same with the lights for me. Like, for me, I have to have a light with me because it just suits like how I'm going to make my pictures. I'm not a person who wants to always just take photos. I'm a person who says, I'm going to go out and make a photo today. There's a vision that I have in my head, and having this control to be able to do that is going to be a defining factor in that. So let's go to, if we decide that we want to put some light on the background. We want to change that color in the background. What am I doing on time, Seth? Good? Yeah. So we make the Creative Pack. Creative Pack's got a bunch of gels. It's got grids. It's got all these things that snap right into our lights. It's got these barn doors. I don't need the barn doors for the gel, so let me see where I'm at. Now, let's use the speed light for that. Okay. I'm going to turn it on. We got touch screens on everything now. Just kick it on. I am going to hit the house. This is this simple. That once I hit the house, I've got host, I've got client, I've got speed light. Client it is. Let's do this. All right. I've got host.
Attaboy.
I feel like I'm like,
Now everyone can see.
all right. So when I'm in host, what you're seeing is something that looks remarkably like my trigger, like the FGX3. I have control over all the other lights. That's nice. If I hit it again, I'm going to come back up. I've got it in client now. Now, client is when it's off camera. 99% of the time, I'm going to be off camera. Even if that just means that I have a trigger in the shoe and I'm holding the light out like this, like that, I'm coming back to it.
Put out a tip jar.
You do that. And then I've got speed light. Now, speed light's the way, if it's just in the shoe. It's traditional. It's going to work the way that does. That's excellent. But let's play with it right now. Let's make sure that I can add a little bit of light to the background.
Is client the same as slave, they're asking?
We do not use that outdated terminology. That is ridiculous.
You can
should
yell
never even
there.
ask that. It is the same as remote.
I mean, use your heads. If it sounds like client, remote, not host, not master, not, something.
There's not darker.
Just saying.
All right, it's in client.
I need pizza.
All I need to do now, there's no syncing, there's none of that. I'm using channel 12. I'm putting this in channel 12. I'm going to make this be group C. Why group C? Because I have A and B over there already. So let's make this group C. I am going to be relatively lazy and just stick it on here and aim it at the background. Now, I think that with that, there's not going to be a lot of spill on George. Let's see. Let's turn off all the rest of the lights. Let's just come on to C. I'm going to turn up the power just a little bit. I just want to change the color of the background. See how that works for us. All right, it is spilling onto George a lot, and it's not giving me as much power as I need. That gel is eating up a little bit of power. And that makes sense. I also have it really far away from the background. I know what I'm going to do now. You know, I got this great idea. There was a really short C-stand available that I decided not, it's not going to work.
What happened?
Nah, it's all right. I need one more Apple box. Nope, I need an Apple box.
Right. Adapters.
Yeah, that's. No, we're not talking to dead air. So I'm putting on this so we can adapt it to everything. I'm going to use the short C-stand that Seth pointed out we had earlier, because I'm going to hide this behind George. The closer I can get it to the background, the less power I got to turn on for it. Now, the downside to that is that your gels are going to show up best in what's underexposed. The more light that you throw through them, they're going to get a little bit less. I'm going to need you to sit up. Yep, there you go. All right. It's a lot tighter than I would like, but it's going to work. I'm going to create some separation. I think that the color's a little washed out because I moved it all the way up to 9 earlier because I didn't think there was enough light. I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to go to 7. I'm going to go, hey, George. There we go. All right. So that's a better color, I think. Making a little bit of a silhouette. Now I'm going to make a decision. Do I want him to, I'll let you guys help make the decision. Do we want soft light on him or do we want harder light on him? There's no wrong. What are we going for now? We want hard? You guys like hard. It's a good crowd. It makes me happy. All right. So let's pull this out of the twist lock. I'm going to throw it into this one. I am fighting. There we go.
They're asking if the head is zoomed out on that backlight.
It's on 24 right now. It's as wide as I'm going to get it. It's just really close to the background. And it has the holder for the gels. All right. So I'm going to go with the Octa 15, relatively small light source. Now, if I throw a bunch of white light into the light that's on the background, what's going to happen with the light on the background as far as the color? It's going to wash it out. So how can I solve that while still making sure that I get a good amount of light on George? I can grid that light. So the Octa 15 comes with the grid. Let's throw it on there, and that'll just make sure that this light stays just on George and doesn't spill all over the place. Does anybody have any questions while we're going? Please, sir. All right, give me one first, and if it's good, I'll let you do a second one.
No, I'll start with the best one that I have.
You're leading strong. You're coming in. You guys, all right.
When you shoot with a custom color, would the light change? Would you up the light, or would you lower the light, or would it keep it the same? You're showing someone that's not a custom color.
That's a great question. I'm not going to over it. All right. So the question was, with a person of color, with a darker complexion, am I going to add more light? Am I going to do the same light, or am I going to do less light? I'm going to start with the same light. I'm going to look at that picture. I'm going to be critical of myself. Because when I get home, it becomes very easy to not remember exactly what skin tone that person was when I was with them. And because we have skin tones that are all across the board, it gets really easy to make a mistake and have somebody end up too bright or too dark. So the time to be self-critical is while I'm shooting it, not getting home and guessing. I'm not going to overexpose it for sure. Because if I overexpose it, I'm going to probably make you run towards orange. I'm going to raise that up. And that's not, that's not right. So in fact, after this, hey, George, stand up. Come on, sir. Let's just do that. I mean, you're a good example, right? You're a big guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. All right, sit down. I never did. Wait, sit up for one more second. So let's dial in George, and then we'll see as a group what you think is right. All right, so I'm on George there. No, you're good. You can go wherever you like. Just
Okay.
all right. I'm going to turn A back on. Let's see where we're at.
They're asking what your white balance is.
I want to tell you that I'm at 5,500 because that's what I usually do. But I was shut. Yeah, I'm at 5,500. Good. All right. A little bit dark. We agree with that? All right. So let's raise him up. I'm going to go 1.5 stops. I want George to stand out a little bit more. That feels pretty good. Didn't wash out the background. I got the colors still like nice and blue. George looks pretty good. What's your name?
Uma.
Jump in.
Would it kill you to say please?
He asked the question.
I just
He volunteered to get up here.
Your demeanor.
I'm really going to get lessons in my demeanor from Seth. All right. All right. So, if anything, you're a little under, but I don't think you're really under. If you come up here, it's close. I might say that he was a little under, but I'll go 1/2 stop. I think it's more light placement than anything right now because you're taller. So we're losing the whole top of your head because you're a little bit taller than George. So I think that the exposure is pretty good. But let's just go there. I feel good. I think you're going to benefit from a backlight as well. Let's look at it on here. You tell me. Does that feel like that's your skin tone? I think your eyes are, look in here.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
So I'm not going to jack it up because you're going to have people that's going to be their first, like, oh, they're darker, let's turn it up. But that's the reason TTL gives hard times because the pre-flash hits the subject, the camera goes, hey, it's too dark. Let's add more light to it. And it ends up overexposing. So if I'm in this situation where I'm just shooting and I'm shooting manual, I'm going to stay pretty close. Now, I will say that your eyes are darker than his. That's more my problem than the skin tone challenge. Because I feel like your eyes are getting a little bit like shark eyes, and his eyes, because they're so light, were like really popping. So let's throw a little bit more light into your eyes. This is actually a great time to do this. So I'm going to go to using, I put it back there. All right, well, the FJ80 is going to be in. All right, we're going to make the FJ80 up here. I am going to put this into the host mode. Or maybe I'm not. Okay. Battery is not charged. It's charged.
We just went through that, didn't we?
Yeah, well, it's the same on the other ones. Okay. There we go. Give me a second. Are you okay with the picture without the blue background?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Here, you hold that for a second.
Are you shooting in JPEG or RAW? That's also
RAWs.
RAW.
Yeah.
So it's like preset. The settings are preset on the.
It's still going to see what the setting is, but I'm shooting RAWs. If I'm shooting sports, I'll shoot JPEGs.
But you say you don't do a lot of posts.
I don't do a lot of posts.
So how? So you shoot in RAW and let it sit down.
We
With
can't
the
hear
light.
his questions.
I was.
Go ahead.
I was saying, you say you don't like to do a lot of post productions. So do you?
Or you hear what it says.
or do you use the light as your the way to add colors to your pictures?
Yeah.
Since you shoot in RAW.
So that was all right. So that's a great question. And if I'm understanding the question right, he's seeing that the pictures are pretty saturated right now. And am I doing that in post or am I doing it now? Thanks, Death.
Yeah, no.
When I underexpose, automatically, so if we go outside right now,
Yeah.
and you decide to underexpose the city street, what's going to happen to the colors in that scene?
It's not gonna really
Richer.
it's not. It's gonna be not. Too, it's gonna be bright depending on the light if you're using lights on it.
All right, so if we go outside right now and I put it in aperture priority at 5.6, and it gives me and I'm aiming towards the west, towards the sunset,
Yeah.
and it gives me 500th of a second. But then I switch it into manual and I put it to 2,000th of a second. What's going to happen to my sky?
It will have a little more color.
More color.
Yeah.
That underexposure is going to give me more color.
Yeah.
So I tend to underexpose almost everything, just as a stylistic choice. Like, it's a great question, because the question really comes down to, like, I don't want to do a lot of post. It's just, I love shooting. I don't love sitting behind my computer. There is not but anybody who tells you that they don't do any is either a liar or they don't have great pictures. I'll get you, sir. I got you. You're not going to be lost. Early on, like 20 years ago when I'm shooting, and like I was looking at other people and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Like, why are my pictures not like that? And because I wasn't doing any post, because I just didn't know any better. As I would get on to events with other people that I saw their raws and then I saw their finished pictures, I was like, ah. And it wasn't that they were doing a ton of posts. It was, though, that they were shooting towards the style that they wanted, which is what I tend to do. Like, a lot of my work looks poppy. And it's not poppy because I go home and I raise my vibrance or I raise my saturation. It's because I'm underexposing everything and I'm throwing light onto you. So the colors are much richer. That's super. Was that your second question?
No, that was the second question.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was really worse or better. Like, they were pretty equally good.
Yeah, that's all.
That was good. You led strong and finished strong. Sir,
Yeah,
I'm coming back to you.
When I shoot a lot of subjects, like gentlemen here, clothing means a lot,
Yes.
right? Because that's challenging, darker skin.
Yeah.
So I know if I'm shooting inside church or something, and I got to be really, and I'll tell certain models, if you don't come in with a
I will repeat it.
light top on, because when I have to get exposure right, if I have to raise, I'm gonna blow out the shirt or garment. So that combination, I always have to keep in mind when I'm shooting.
All right. So the question was, I'm going to paraphrase it because you went on a long time. He said that when our subjects, their clothing choice is going to make a lot of difference towards the overall picture. This gentleman's got a very dark skin tone. He's got a very white shirt. Okay, and that's hard. It's 100% hard. But you got to ask yourself, do you want to be able to make money shooting? Because if you want to be able to still make money shooting, we have to be able to overcome hard things. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it. Now, for me, if I have to choose between one of those things being right, it's going to be the skin. I'm always going to lean towards the skin being right because it's the harder thing for me to fix later on. I'm always going to try not to blow things out because blowouts, with any of the camera brands, it's a lot harder to get highlights back than it is to get shadow detail, especially today. We're living in a really great time for that. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you might have no detail on your shadows, but now we're good there. But so I'm not going to blow it out. This is the hardest situation. Is whether it's a tuxedo with a black tuxedo and a white shirt. But if one of those has got to go bad, I'll let the black go bad because I don't want to blow that out. But if it's the skin or the skin, like that's going to be my, for me, I'm a portrait shooter. I'm not a fashion shooter. And we're also talking about small lights. If I'm on set where I'm doing something that's really important, we're going to be using a color checker. We're going to be using something like a passport that's going to get the colors right. We're going to be making sure that we got our white balance dead on at the start, so we're all in line with everything that we're doing. But I'm also a lot more forgiving in that situation. I'm going to be using 7-foot umbrellas. I'm going to be, the light is a lot more even from edge to edge. Where right now I'm putting myself in a really hard situation. Like, I can get him right, or I can get, and in this case, though, it almost plays to my advantage because the fall off means that at least half of his shirt's going to be exposed right. So, okay, I can live with that. But if I have the choice between the two, I'm going to move back with the light a bigger light, let that light hit him more evenly, because that's, again, not to make this into a math class, but inverse square law, the difference in fall off is less the farther away it is from the subject. So if I can move it back, I'm going to get a more even exposure from the skin down to the clothes. With small lights like this, yeah, you're right. It's tough. You're running and gunning with a speed light in your shoe, you're going to have a hard time. But to answer your question, which it's too late for a long story short, it is, I'm going to choose the skin. And I'm going to chimp myself a little bit. I'm going to be like, am I right? And even better now, we did this earlier. When he looked at it on the back of the screen, he was like, and I said, look in here. And he went, ooh, yeah, it's great. Like that, so don't sell yourself short. Because sometimes like the camera, that screen on the back, it's not that it's bad. It's just, it's dealing with all the rest of this stuff. So make sure to look in, be critical, because I don't want to go home and fix 200 pictures. You just don't. One of the things that, not to turn this into a business class, but, I run into so many photographers that are like, I make $500 an hour. And they're only talking about the hour they shot. They're not talking about the 4 hours of posts. And they're, next thing you know, they could have been flipping burgers and they would have made the same amount of money. Not to rip on people that are making food, but you know what I'm saying? Like, we're professionals. Like, act like it. Like, be critical of yourself. Get it right. That was a good question. Guys, I'm over, but do we have any questions? I would love it.
Regarding the FJ80 for the 100, so I have all these 80s. Do I now need to get rid of my
No. Did they not work today? Did we send out a firmware that stopped them? No. They still work great. So, what's that? Yeah, so the question was that she owns a bunch of FJ80s. Does she need FJ100s because they came out? I would be very thankful because I'm the sales rep for the Northeast. So please, replace them all. And while you're doing it, donate your 80s to a local school that really needs lights. Write that off. Go in and tell them about how awesome the Westcott guy is. And say, hey, you guys have now got all these lights. JC will come in and do from period flash for you. I'll do it. If you buy, let's call it 6. If you buy 6 FJ100s today, I'll do it. All right? But no. The answer is no. The answer is these are all tools. But when one of those eventually goes bad, you knock it down off of something. We've got world-class customer service. We'll try to fix it. But there's going to come a time where it can't be done. Then the 100's the new light. It's, whenever somebody has this argument, I'm like, what, do you have a car? Do you have a car from this year every year? No. As long as my car still runs, I'm going to be great. It is a little bit more battery life. It is a little bit more powerful. That's all great. But if you've got 6, what I know is they use some of them off camera because you're not putting 6 on camera. So when you buy new lights, I'd talk to myself and I'd go, what's important to me? Am I off camera all the time? And I'd look at the 100 strobe. The 100 strobe, you're going to save $120, get the same power, get an easier to carry around, footprint in your bag because it's smaller than your speed lights. The downside is it can't go in your shoe, but you've already got some that do that. So that's not a big deal. Easier to modify. It's easier to throw into something, whether it's, it's not easier, but to me, it's more effective that way. But being able to put 2 or 3 of those in the space that I was having to put one across the other way or, in my bag has turned out to be awesome. I'm spoiled on 250s and 400s and 800s. I'm spoiled. But I got these about 3-4 weeks ago and going out with them and going, and re-exploring that part of me that did everything with speedlights for a long time, but now with a little bit more knowledge, now knowing that I don't have to shoot everything at 1.4, I can shoot it at 2.8. I can shoot it at 4 and make sure that I'm in focus, but still get some separation. That's why I'm excited about these. To answer your question, you don't have to replace them. When the time comes, do replace them. Buy more Westcott stuff, please. But I would definitely look at the strobes. I would be like, hey, this is going to be, especially once you start going to the other speed light, because then all your batteries will match. And I can't promise anything with that, but I know that we made this move. Right now, the 250, the 400, and 800 all have one battery. These lights at the bottom of the end have one battery. And that's our goal, is to have less SKUs, less things for you to have headaches with. This is a company that really designs things so that photographers have an easier life, not to have 100 SKUs that are making you think that you need to have everything. So, yeah. Did I answer it well enough? I appreciate you. One more question.
Two questions. with one-
Two questions, one person.
One short answer, one longer answer. Does this have a modeling light?
It does.
And why did you discontinue the FJ200s and go to this, which is the same form factor?
All right, so am I media trained for this? Am I able to be the guy? Hey, all right. Why did we replace the FJ200 with this? We didn't replace the FJ200 with this. We replaced the FJ200 with the FJ250. We replaced the FJ200 with the FJ250 because the bare bulb, the full-size Bowens, the battery that matches all the other lights, all made sense. At the end of the day, we're a company that's really interested in great light rather than having 100 SKUs. We want you to have the best quality of light. The 250 was the best way to do that. Now, at the same time, we did hear people say, I miss having a smaller light. And so we were like, okay, we'll make a smaller light. Because the 200, as much as I liked it, by the time that I put the pieces on it to modify it so that I could put bigger softbox on it, by the time that I put the tilter bracket on it, it wasn't taking up a small amount of space in my bag. I might as well have carried a 250 or a 400. It just wasn't carrying a ton less. Was it smaller? It was smaller. I'm not going to say it wasn't. But for me right now, every job that I would have done with a 200, I can do with this. At a much cheaper price point, at a USB-C battery out of the box, so I don't have to worry about an adapter to go AC-DC. I'm getting 700 full power flashes, where I was getting about 450 out of the other one. Recycle time is a tiny bit slower, but more than fast enough for me. And it's just, it's more convenient in my bag at a much cheaper price point. The 2 wasn't a terrible one. I liked it. We didn't sell that many. So market tells me, market data says that it wasn't what the people wanted. The 250s, we sell a lot. The 100s, we're going to sell a lot. And it's not to make it about that, but the market said that this is the tool that they wanted versus the other tool. It's a good question. Do you have one more? Because I'm getting yelled at. Okay. No, I wasn't talking about you. There's somebody, I'm talking to somebody here.
There's a last question in the chat is, does it zoom? Does that 100
They both zoom. They both are able to zoom, which is a really useful. So he's asked, the question was, do they zoom? Why would I zoom my speedlight? Why would I zoom my 100? In a situation where I maybe don't, like if I'm outside, this is a great time. I'm going to put the light here, and it is spreading at 24 millimeters. But my subject is not covering that many millimeters in my picture. Why am I trying to light the background? I instead will zoom in a little bit and get more light onto my subject. It's the same as having a grid or something built into it. That's where I'm going to use it for. It's also, if I was on camera, use it so that if I'm shooting something that's far away, it's the same thing. The light is going towards the subject rather than spreading everywhere. If I'm shooting into an umbrella, into a softbox, having a manual zoom is also useful there, because in the softbox, I'm going to put it to 24 all the time, because I want it to spread out in my box as much as possible to give me the softest light possible. If you look at some smaller light sources, that was like Gonzo in the Muppet Show. All right. So, you'll see a hot spot in the middle of your softbox if you use a zoomed in strobe in that. So that was a good question. Is that it, Seth?
Yeah.
Hey, say hi to Ashley Louder, everybody. I see her in there. Ashley Louder is a Westcott employee and an amazing shooter. You should definitely go check her out as well. Guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate you all. That meandered a little bit. It was the first time I did that class. I'm thankful. Guys, big George, can we throw George's Instagram in there? I appreciate that. Here you go. Umar, what's your Instagram?
Umar Conte.
Come on.
O-U-M-A. I swear, it's my first and last.
I know, but nobody knows how to speak. I kind of spelled it 85 times.
O-U-M-A-R-K-A-N-T-E. Umar Conte.
Good job.
Thank you so much. Yo, give him a round of applause. Too.